maybe equally as worse was the Chinese drip torture of just constant state of problems at home. We would even unscrew the door handle from the outside so that he couldn't open the door. That's how determined and angry he was.
And he took an axe.
So hammers and axes. As I shouted out to the man to say, please can you help us?
Yeah, my dad is
doing this. He has an axe. He's breaking down the door.
Yeah.
He's threatening to kill us. I will never recognize, speak, or believe in God. I came home and my mum was being thrown around like a doll, and there was blood on the walls. Dad stabbed my sister in the head with a screwdriver one night.
Oh.
And so her head was split.
You did some drugs, and you told me psychedelic drugs.
Yeah, psychedelics, so LSD.
LSD?
Yeah. The anger, I can't overstate the anger that I had. I could go from 0 to grabbing you by the head and slamming your head in a table.
Just in a split second.
Yeah, he ran away from me, and I chased him with a knife down the street. I said, what's it with all these questions? Oh, you better come home. I said, why? We found Dad.
You had a friend who believed in God.
His mum was a Christian, and he became a Christian, and he would not stop talking about God. So he would ask me to come to the Easter service, or come to the Christmas service, or I'm getting baptized, or something. I can't remember, but I used to think it was crazy. All these people singing songs, clapping.
Yeah.
And, I thought, what a bunch of nutters. There was a guy called John McHale, and he spoke about the simple Christian message. What was that? A deeply moving experience. Because he said, is there anybody here that wants to become a Christian this morning? That wants to receive Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior? But God just took me out, gave me a new family tree, and said, God is the head.
Yes.
I'm his son, and this is your
New lineage. Hey, mijn naam is Sierd de Jong en ik ben de voorganger van de evangelische gemeente de Levensbron. En je luistert naar onze podcast. Ik hoop dat het je zal inspireren en dat het je geloof zal opbouwen. Geniet van de boodschap. Hallo iedereen, welkom opnieuw in deze Levensbron Podcast. Waar we een speciale gast hebben in ons midden, Jim de Jong. En hij komt uit Engeland, dus ik ga in het Engels zo spreken. And I also want to welcome our English-speaking guest. Welcome in this Living Well podcast, where we have a special guest, Jim de Jong. My name is Sierd de Jong. And as you maybe know, maybe not, that he's not only a guest, he's also my son-in-law. Yeah. And because we know, and before you got to know Daniela, our oldest daughter, we knew each other already from before.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we went on a mission trip.
We went even on a mission trip.
Your church had a link with our church.
Yeah,
and we just happened to be on a mission trip to India. Yeah.
We even slept in the same room.
That's right. We shared a room. Yes,
I kept you awake with my snoring.
I remember you snoring. I think I kept you active with other duties as well. On insect duty.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Jim is a bit afraid of bugs or of any insect. Huh?
I'm not particularly fond of insects, no.
Not particularly fun or afraid? Admit it.
I don't know. I mean, I might go in the opposite direction of one quite quickly.
Well, I saw you going in the opposite direction of one in India.
That was a big one, though.
It was a cockroach.
It was,
yeah.
It was a big
one.
And
I saw you jump out of the shower quite a long distance into the room.
Bathroom. Yeah, I jumped out of the bathroom.
And I thought, whoa, that's an athletic guy.
Yeah, but you just sat there listening to music, but I saw these tentacles.
Yeah.
And I thought, what is that thing?
Yeah.
And but the sink was right next to the door.
Yeah.
So when I saw what it was, I darted through the door very quickly.
But that was before you got to know Daniela. And
before I knew your daughter,
Yeah, and now you have already two lovely daughters.
Yeah, two little girls of
Rachel
my own.
and Haley.
Yeah, very sweet.
And life is good at the moment, I heard.
It is. Life is so sweet,
Yeah.
incomparable to my life before. But life now is very sweet indeed.
Yeah, it wasn't always the same.
No.
And that's why we are here, to hear from you, from how God has changed your life,
Yeah.
from where you came from. Because maybe go a little bit to your background. Your parents were immigrants from India.
That's right. Yes, they were born in India, obviously, and they from northern India, and they came over to England as a lot of Indian people did to come and work.
Yeah.
And I think they came around 1971, two, something like that, maybe.
Okay. And but they start to live in Huddersfield straight away?
Yes, straight to Huddersfield, which is a town nestled between Leeds and Manchester. If you look at Leeds and Manchester on the map, in the middle of there is a town called Huddersfield.
Yeah.
And that's where...
it was because of economic reasons.
That's right, yes. A lot of people came over to work in the factories, textiles, and things like that. And that's what my parents did.
So, and that's how you were born in 77.
Yeah, born and bred, yeah.
So you've been born and bred in Huddersfield.
Yeah.
That's the town you know.
Yeah.
And how was it for you? Because you hear nowadays a lot of young people who born out of an immigrant family, they're in between two cultures, and sometimes they are in between, and they don't feel at home, not in the old culture, in the new culture. Did it happen to you?
Not for me, no. I think maybe I was one generation after that. I think maybe the generation just prior, Indians or immigrants moving, just the generation before maybe felt that way.
Yeah.
But by the time I was growing up, it was very multicultural.
Multicultural, so there was no feeling of tension.
No, not at all. No, I don't remember.
You really felt at home in being. You didn't know any better.
I didn't know any better. That's right. Yeah.
Although from home you were raised in an Indian culture.
Yes, from an early age, I was
lovely Indian food.
Yeah, although I didn't like Indian food in those days. Now it's my favorite takeaway. And even Daniela has learned to cook Indian food. My mum taught her, and she cooks some lovely Indian food, authentic. But when I was younger, I very much loved English food. So fish fingers and beans and sausages and,
that's
chips.
typical English, eh?
Oh, I loved
full English breakfast with the sausages.
My mum used to despair because I used to be so thin. And she would try anything to get me to eat, and I just wouldn't eat the Indian food.
Okay.
And so when she saw me eating chips and beans one day, she thought, wow, he is packing that away.
Yeah.
So then she started buying fish fingers and sausages and things like that. So I started eating that.
And you have 3 sisters. You're the third
That's right.
From a family of 4.
Yeah, 4 children.
And you're the only boy.
Only boy.
And how was it being raised in your family? How was the atmosphere in the house? What can you remember from those days?
I mean, the super early days of me being really young.
Yeah.
I just remember vague memories of everything just being
normal,
quite normal.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as time went on, and we weren't an affluent family, so the usual struggles at home of money,
making
and working.
Meet.
Yeah, and making ends meet. And my parents used to work hard. They would be gone in the morning by both.
Oh.
So they would be gone in the morning by 7:00.
So your sisters had to do a lot of work as well.
Yeah. My sisters learned to cook and things like that at a very young age.
Okay.
And they used to all share the duties, and so that was normal. That's normal in an Indian family. And they would make chapatis and help mum, make the Indian food, and from a very young age. And I mean, like early junior school age,
Yeah.
So my mum and dad would be gone by 7:00 in the morning and not return till 7:00 in the evening.
Just to make money
just to work,
paying the bills okay.
So my grandma used to wake us up on a morning and
Oh.
get us dressed for school and things like that.
So, but when you noticed, hey, something changed in the family dynamic, because you told your father, you developed an anger against your father.
Yeah.
What happened? Why was that?
My dad became an alcoholic.
Okay.
And obviously as a child, I didn't understand it. To me, I just saw my dad drinking all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would drink in the weekends and then become quite abusive, and things were difficult at home.
Yeah.
But then it progressively over years got worse and worse to the point where he was drinking every day, and then things were really not nice.
You said quite abusive, but how far did it go? Because you told me that he was beating really.
Yeah, he became
your sisters, your mother.
Yeah. Looking back in those days, God has done a wonderful work in my life. And if you'd have asked me these questions, all those years ago when when God came into my life and changed me, the memories were so fresh and so painful.
Yeah.
But God transforms you and he changes you, and he doesn't just make you forget. He heals those things. And
it's almost like, is that me?
Yeah, absolutely.
You talk about a different person, even.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he transforms you. He genuinely transforms you and puts you back on the plan that he had for you. But trying to remember back then, and even when I remember them, I think to myself, yeah, gosh, it really was that bad. It was not nice at all. Seeing your parents fight is one thing. Seeing your father throw your mum around the living room and hit her head on the wall and punch her and be physically violent, had a devastating impact on me. Yeah. Looking back,
but in your family, they come from a Sikh bank.
Yeah,
not
so we
sick
were
in the sense of being Sikh. Sikh background.
Yeah,
that's a religion in India.
Yeah, that's right. So normally you wouldn't in that religion be drinking. If you were devout, you wouldn't even eat meat. Vegetarians, very passive, non-violent, in the grand scheme of things. And so, but there is a issue within the Asian communities of excessive drinking, especially with the Indians.
And Sikh religion, it's not like Hinduistic with their many gods.
No, it's a monotheistic religion. It's and the opening line of their holy book is there is only one God.
Yeah.
And that was making a statement coming out of Hinduism in India. And the religion was formed by the writings of holy men that they called gurus.
Okay.
And so you had Hinduism, which is obviously prevalent in India with its pluralistic, lots of gods for everything. And that's their perspective. And then obviously there was Islam. And with the fighting and the infighting of lots of things that were happening in India, was birthed the new religion, which was Sikhism.
And they wanted to raise you up as well in the religion.
And they did, yeah. I mean, we went to the Sikh temples on a regular basis. Even went to religious school. So after school, I would go to the Gurdwara or the Sikh temple to learn how to read, write, and speak Punjabi.
Yeah, and even your last name refers to that religion, huh?
Yes.
Not the name now. I mean, now you're called De Jong.
Yes, my surname now is De Jong.
Was Singh in those days. I know you as Jim Singh.
Yeah. So when you and I got to know each other, I was Jim Singh. And Singh is the name that's given to all the boys or the men in the Sikh religion. And all the girls are given the name Kaur. So whatever your name is, Kaur would be your second name.
Yeah.
For the girls. And if you were a boy, you might even be of the same family, but the boys would all have the name Singh.
And you change your name. Maybe we're going to talk about it later a little bit. What's the reason behind it?
Yeah, I did change my name, yes.
Yeah, into De Jong. And, growing up, they believed in God.
Yeah.
But your father didn't act on what he believed in.
No, and I think that's kind of thing that you see in a lot of religions around the world, that people would ascribe themselves to a particular culture or a religion, and therefore you are. And in the Indian community or the Asian community, it's very much so. Yeah. If you are in a Sikh family, therefore you are a Sikh. There isn't a choice.
It's like cultural, isn't it?
It's cultural. So and to be in a Sikh family and then choose not to be Sikh is almost denying the culture as well.
Yeah.
It goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So yes, my dad would wear a turban sometimes, even.
Yes, because they wear turbans.
Yeah, the bangle, the kara,
Yeah.
the kara. So they would.
So that was the outer form.
Yeah, the outer form, you would, to all intents and
But
purposes.
in his lifestyle, you couldn't see it totally back in his lifestyle.
No, I wouldn't say so.
No. So for you to believe in God with that example, it was maybe hard for you to believe in God for yourself, or was it?
I just saw him as somebody who wasn't being religious.
Okay.
Whereas my mum was.
Yeah.
So she would be reading on a regular basis, morning and night. She would do her prayers and things like that. She would be the one instigating the, things regarding going to the Sikh temple, making sure that we go to the Sikh temple to learn and read and write. And that's all I knew, So I was taught that God created us and this is our religion.
But remember, you told me about an instant that when your father came home and he was beating in the door with an axe.
Yeah, there was a lot of circumstances throughout my life where things were really bad. So there was moments where things were really bad. And then maybe equally as worse was the Chinese drip torture of just constant state of problems at home. Just constant
in that atmosphere.
Yeah,
of
that
pressure.
That atmosphere of things could fly off the handle at any moment. Or you're trying to sleep and he would just barge into your bedroom, switch the light on, and just start talking nonsense while he was drunk. But do it night after night after night while you're trying to sleep as a young boy.
Yeah.
Not just to me, obviously my sisters and my mum as well. It became really, really difficult.
Yeah.
So there was the ongoing pressures of having dad at home in the way that he was.
Yeah.
But then there was those explosive moments, which were particularly not nice. And the reference you're making there is of a night particularly where he became extremely violent and he was beating my mom, and we would intervene as kids. We would get my mum out of there. We would
try and protect
my mum.
Yeah.
We got her upstairs, and as we do, we had a little system. We would even unscrew the door handle from the outside so that he couldn't open the door.
You become so smart.
From the inside, and pull the pin out so that the door wouldn't open with the door handle.
Oh.
So we would unscrew it,
Yeah.
and so we would, in essence, lock ourselves into the bedroom. And so on that particular night, we were all four children, and my mum I think my mum was nursing some wounds, sat on the bed, and so he went to the garage to go and get tools. That's how determined and angry he was.
And he took an axe then.
So hammers and axes, and it was a wooden door, and he just went at the door.
And you saw the axe coming through the door.
Yeah, I remember the door bending and curving.
Yeah.
Because he'd taken so much wood out the other side of the door, and the ferocious smashing, and the door frame cracking around the door itself, and plaster from the walls falling on my head like a mist.
What a fear must have gone through your system.
Yeah, it was terrifying.
I remember you told me you were at the window and there was a man passing outside. And how old were you then?
I remember my shoulder went up to the door handle. So the door handle's probably about this height.
Yeah.
I think I was around 8, 9, maybe 10 years old.
And then you
maybe
yelled
10.
at that man. And you said,
so I jumped up on the window.
Yeah.
Because my sister said there's somebody outside. Because this was late in the evening.
okay.
And it was quite a pivotal moment because in that moment, I was about 10 years old. So I shouted out to the man to say, please, can you help us?
Yeah, my dad is
doing this. He has an axe. He's breaking down the door.
Yeah.
He's threatening to kill us. I mean, as a child, I thought, we're going to die here tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd seen a lot of violence. I'd been beaten with shovels, beaten with broomsticks, beaten with sticks,
He beated you with those.
Yeah.
But you must have bruises and broken things or not?
I didn't have any, thankfully, I didn't have any broken bones, but, we got, it wasn't nice. But that particular
story,
night, so as I shouted out to this man, please will you help us? So imagine a kid
Yeah.
shouting through
8, 9
a
years
window, looking over a window like this,
Yeah.
and saying, please will you help us? And you could hear the screams and the noises. He must have done. It was about 11 o'clock at night, I think. And it was dark, and he stopped, and I remember him just pausing as if he was thinking. Then he looked to the floor as if he was contemplating. And then he looked up and he said, and I said, please will you phone the police? And he said, no, I won't. Just simple as that. No, I won't. And carried on walking. And
what happened inside of you?
So, something broke inside of me that day, and I truly decided that there was no God.
That was the moment.
That was the moment.
Like an inner choice.
Yeah,
there is no God.
We are
if
utterly,
there's a God.
Yeah, I don't want to know him. We are utterly alone. This is a life that you have. It's like a house of cards that fell. And inside there was like a decisive moment of thought, even as a young boy, to say, you're just on your own here. Yeah. And I remember jumping off the windowsill, and my sisters were saying, what did he say? What did he say? He said, and I said, he won't. And they just looked at me like, no, he won't. And I ran to the door because the door was shaking, and all four of us were holding the door at one point. Yeah. We were pressing our bodies against the door so it wouldn't open. And my sisters were sat behind my mum at this moment because she was like, come and sit with me. I won't let him hurt you,
Mm-hmm.
And seeing the look in my mum's eye, at that moment, at the time I didn't understand it, but now as a father who've got little kids yourself, what must she have been going through?
Yeah.
I couldn't have empathized with that throughout my life. I just thought she was sat there nursing the wounds, but what must have been going through that? This is what my children are going through, so it must have been horrible. But in that moment, as I saw it, I held that door closed.
Yeah.
And it was ferocious banging, and
he was determined to get in.
He was determined. And in that moment I said, God, I will, I get emotional because I know that the moment I decided that there was no God.
Yeah, that was just you said before.
And so I get emotional because years later, I realized there is one. And I now know my life, how it's been since God came into my life.
Yes.
But that moment, and I think, my gosh, and I said, I will never recognize or speak or believe in God again in all my life.
Yeah, that was the moment at the window.
At that moment,
Yes,
by the window
but
and by the door.
Back at the door.
Back at the door, I think I might have even said, I hate you.
God.
Yeah. Because my mum, I think, said something like, don't worry, God will save us, or something, some religious comment like that. Yeah. And I just said, I hate you,
Wow.
in my heart.
Not just to your father, but to God.
Yeah, but specifically regarding God. And that was the moment then. And so just to finish the story of what happened that night, he was on the other side of the door, so I couldn't see what happened. But suddenly the banging stopped. The axe and everything that he made, it felt like it
out
fell
of nothing, or was something someone said?
No, just out of nothing. The tools dropped, and there was another bedroom next door. And to me, it sounded like he walked into that room and just fell on the bed.
Oh,
out,
fell asleep,
and that was it. Fell asleep, and that was another day. And we spent the next days and weeks. I remember me and my sister fixing the door. I remember going to the DIY shop getting polyfiller to fill the holes in the plaster.
But the neighbors, did they notice? I mean, the area, school, did they notice that it? Yeah. That's a very abusive situation that you were in.
We were in the newspapers many times.
Oh.
There was one time I was in the newspapers where, as a boy, I came home and my mum was being thrown around like a doll, and there was blood on the walls. And I didn't know what to. I just did, like, I call it a Forrest Gump. I just ran, but I had no shoes on. I had no shoes, no socks, and I just ran.
I'm laughing, but it's terrible. But
I just ran. So imagine, I just ran out through the streets, along the main road, to a police station, man. And I didn't stop. And I ran across main roads all by myself as a little boy to the police station. So
that's where you could go. There was nobody.
What could I do?
No. maybe a teacher where you could go to, or a...
No, I mean, it was, I don't know if it was a weekend or not. I can't remember that far, but as when I went to the police and I told them what was happening, and I said, will you come? They obviously then took me in the police car and we went back home, and again, they resolved things with my dad. But it came in the newspaper, you know, I can't remember. Boy 8 runs barefoot to police station. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there was many events
So
like
it
that
was-
where...
But even you, I mean, you as a family went to a shelter. So you
Yeah,
ended
so-
up living in a shelter,
Yeah,
being
so
protected from your father.
yeah. So when things, so what happened was my dad stabbed my sister in the head with a screwdriver one night,
Oh,
and so her head was split, and
no.
she needed stitches. I can't remember, but when they came and they saw that a little girl with bleeding from the head, they arrested my dad, and that was one of the times where he went to jail. Many times they took him. They took him to a mental institution for drying out. He spent a few weeks in a mental...
drying out is
drying out, like to have no alcohol,
Yeah.
to not be allowed any alcohol for a few weeks.
detox.
Almost like a detox. Yeah, they took.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember visiting him in this mental asylum that used to be in Huddersfield. It's closed down now. But on that occasion, so he got arrested and he got put in jail, and he was in Armley Jail, which is in Leeds, for a while. I remember visiting him there. So there were events like that would have been in
So
the
how was
newspaper.
life for you in a shelter? I mean, you're
So
a growing
when
up
things
boy.
like that happened...
You're in your teenage years now.
Yes, by now we are 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
12 and 13, I would say I was. And social services, the protection agencies get involved because a child was physically hurt in a grievous way. So they then chose, they said, look, the options are we take the children or you come with the children. So my mum came with the children. And so my dad was left out in the family home, and
They still threaten you?
we were in a family home. I mean, he was still threatening all the time. He was just threatening. He was, by this time, he'd really, my dad was a great worker. He was well loved. My early memories of him, he works really hard and he was well respected at work. But then as the alcohol took hold, it became problematic at work. And I remember
He lost his job? in the end,
eventually he lost his job. And when he lost his job, I think that's where it really went downhill.
no money. I mean, there's
Yeah.
welfare, of course.
Yeah.
But still, that's not...
Yeah. No, the fights were over money. Lots of fights over money. Money used to be given to you in cash in those days.
Yeah.
And he would just take the money from my mum. But she would be like, but we need this.
What
for
she
food."
earned from her
Yeah,
job.
and he would just go and buy alcohol with it.
Oh, man.
So we, and seeing the despair in my mum's face, how am I going to feed the kids and all these kind of things.
Now, because we said you developed an anger, and anger maybe is not even the right word. You developed a hatred
Yeah, I
against.
really.
Now, if you hear this story, it's very understandable.
Yeah, I really became troubled, to say the least, and my way of thinking, that my heart became very hard, and
No God,
no God,
no loving family.
no God.
Hey, I'm on my own.
Yeah, and I buried myself in
And I hardened
science and
myself.
logic, and you harden yourself to the world. That's right. Yeah.
I don't want to be hurt anymore.
Yeah, maybe that's how I thought.
Yes.
But that was the way I resolved life
I'm on my
around
own.
me.
I'm going to do it on my own.
Yeah, you're on your own.
Yeah.
There is nothing. No one's going to come and help you, and so you've got
And
to.
there's no God. So science, you because you're a scientific guy.
Yeah, so I
You
love.
believed in science, and you
Yeah.
said, okay, there's no creator. Everything
And
happens
science
by
provided
chance.
answers to me. It provided answers. It provided answers of everything: origin, time, the world, the universe.
Yeah.
And when you're in situations like that, it makes you think about life.
Yeah.
It makes you think about what is this all about. And so when you remove God out of the picture, you have free rein
Yeah.
to do what you want, think how you like,
So you
and no moral standards.
you party.
Yeah, obviously.
That was your life. But how did it go to? You still went to school, or you were a dropout, or?
No, I still went to school. How my mum managed to keep the family together so that all four of us continued to go to school and so on. So we lived in a safe house. There was, eventually we moved back home, but then I was living in a safe house, and so there was times through high school was pretty difficult. The poverty that we had, but at the same time knowing that school was going to be one of my ways out of this life.
Oh yeah.
I really believed that.
So if you study hard,
That if I could just make some effort at school, so I was determined. I wasn't good. I wasn't, top class of everything or anything like that, but I tried my best.
and in the weekends, going out,
Yeah.
clubbing.
So you become a teenager, then clubbing and drinking.
So you use alcohol yourself, although your father was very alcoholic.
So he became an alcoholic, yeah, but I just did it recreationally.
Yeah. And you did some drugs, you told me?
Yeah, so as we got into the later teens, from like 14, 15 onwards, we started taking,
Psychedelic drugs.
yeah,
was it?
psychedelics, so LSD.
LSD?
Yeah, and then on after that, ecstasy.
Okay.
By the grace of God, I didn't get into cocaine and heroin,
Yeah.
but it would have only been another step
Yeah.
had God not arrested me before that time.
And I remember you said, I was on drugs. And then you had this idea, I'm going to kill my father.
Yeah, so I was really, the anger, I can't overstate the anger that I had. I could go from zero to grabbing you by the head and slamming your head in a table.
Just in a split second.
You say something to me in a different way, or a look, I would launch at you with physical violence, because that was my elastic band reaction.
And
things.
even also, you did it to your mom and your sisters?
Yes, I was awful to my sisters.
So you did the same as your father did. It is almost, you copy it, or was it just the anger had to go out?
Yeah, it wasn't I'm copying my dad, but rather I was just an angry individual.
Oh, yeah.
So if you disrespect me, expect physical violence, and no one can push your buttons more than family can. And I remember being particularly horrible to my sisters because we were growing up. We were, becoming young adults. I was, testosterone would have been flowing through me as a young boy, becoming a teenager. My sisters were obviously growing up.
Yeah.
No understanding of emotional or hormonal elements. So if they were rude to me, I was really horrible.
But
and
what made you say, okay, now this is the day? Because you said, I'm planning.
So by this time I had left school and I was trying to do college and I was trying to do my A-levels and I was living in a safe house. It was this small bedsit flat. Yeah. Horrible.
You resented your life.
I resented my life where I was. And I also was deeply angry about the fact that I was living away for my dad's benefit because they knew I was going to do something to my dad. So they moved me out.
So, okay, that was also... you
it was very clear. I said, if somebody doesn't sort my dad out, I'm going to have to do something. So, but the point was, when I left home, when I used to come home and visit, I could tell that my dad had been violent to my sisters.
Yeah, you can tell.
I can tell there was a broken sink, and there was things that were broken, and they were very subdued, and the aftermath of a fight, I could tell. So I knew things were happening whilst I wasn't there, and I was furious because by that time I'd told my dad I'd lost all fear. I wasn't afraid of him anymore, and so I told him one day I'm going to come and kill you.
Because sometimes you had a knife and you came after him with a knife, and he ran away from you.
Yeah, he ran away from me, and I chased him with a knife down the street. And I don't know what I was going to do, but I certainly wanted to scare him. But in my mind's eye, I was like, I'm going to finish you once and for all. You're never going to hit my mom again. You're never going to hit my sisters again.
But then he ran away.
And he ran away, and then I was living... This one particular day, I was on LSD, and I just thought, this needs to stop. Nobody's helping us. He needs to be gone. And somehow in my mind, I concocted an idea that I would wait until he was drunk, which he always was. He would obviously get violent with me anyway. And when he does, I'll take the opportunity to stab him in the throat. I felt I had a reason.
And how old were you then?
Probably about 14.
14. Can you imagine, being at that age and already...
Maybe, no, I was probably then, I must have been 15 by then. 15, because I'd just left school.
Yeah.
So, so if I was at college then, so I must have been around 15 or 16 years old. Yeah. I remember thinking to myself, working this out in a calculated manner, because there was this long history of violence, that I would somehow be able to convince a judge that it wasn't murder, that it was self-defense.
Self-defense, so there was strategic.
So I told my friend this idea that I had, and I said, this is how I'm going to do it. And at this time, so on the day, right, I'm going to do this, and maybe I'm thinking back now, maybe I'm going to do it tomorrow. Well, he came round to come and get me, and he said, I've won this competition, this Young Inventor of the Year, because he made this electronic thing. And he won, will you come with me to this final event to see if I win, win this contest? And so I thought, oh man, I was going to go to my father's house today. And I even phoned the house to make sure he was drunk. Oh, yeah. And he was. He answered the phone, all drunk, And I thought, right, today's the day. But my friend came round and he said, I won this competition. Come with me. I don't want to go by myself. So I went with him. And I was away all day. And I remember it clear as day. We came back in the evening to his house. And my sister phoned my friend's house, which had never happened before.
No.
So his mum answered and said, Jim, there's a phone call for you from your sister.
Yeah.
And my sister Jazz was like, where have you been? I was like, I've been here with Sam. You phoned the house, didn't you? Did you come to the house? And I said, I did phone the house earlier. Why did you phone the house? Well, I wanted to see if Dad was drunk. Why? I said, what's it with all these questions? Oh, you better come home. And I said, why? We found Dad dead at the bottom of the stairs.
So the day you wanted to kill him, he died on his own.
He died on his own.
Heart attack, or what was it?
My understanding is that he just drunk himself to death.
He drunk himself to death. His body just gave up.
It came in the newspaper. If I remember correctly, it said that it was the highest blood alcohol level the coroner had ever seen.
Wow.
And so he must have drank so much that he either fell down the stairs or didn't make it up the stairs.
Was it a relief or was it?
The joy was inexplicable, followed by rage.
So you were happy that he was gone.
I was.
At the same time, you were very angry.
Yes, because I had plans for him. I wanted to hurt him. I wanted to give him some of his own medicine. This is how twisted my mind was. And
the pain he caused, you wanted.
I wanted him to feel it.
Him.
I wanted him to feel it, and I wanted to show him that he could never do that to us again. I mean, I would wake up in a sweat, dreaming of the ways I could hurt him. Wow. So when my sister, and I remember walking home with my friend, and I said, my dad's dead. And I was overjoyed, and he was looking at me like, Jim, are you real? Are you being real right now? And I said, he's dead, man, he's gone. And I remember coming home, and my mum was in tears, my sisters were in tears, they were all sat in the living room. And I said, so tell me what happened. And so I told my mum, I said, Mom, what a great day. No more hiding behind the sofa. She would hide behind the sofa up against the wall and sleep there so my dad couldn't find her. And she would, sleep in the car and, and all this kind of stuff. I said, you no longer have to do any of this. You never have to worry about getting beaten. And she went ballistic with me. She was so angry with me, because...
Despite everything,
because it was her husband still. Yeah. This is me now looking back. At the time, I couldn't understand, why are you getting angry?
Yeah.
He's dead. This horrible person in our lives.
You, it was relief.
It was relief. It was genuine relief. So I had to leave. I had to leave because I had to leave them in their grief.
Yeah.
But for me, it was joy.
But at the same time, it saved you from being a murderer.
Absolutely. if
Yeah.
it
But
was a
you
miracle.
didn't- yeah.
I mean, you would think, to me at the time, it was just coincidence.
Mm.
But I look back and I see
Yeah.
the providence of God protecting me.
So when he died, you were at what age? You remember?
I think I was about 16 then.
16, huh? So and then your life continued, growing
Yeah.
up.
But I was
Still
angry
becoming an
now.
adult.
I was even more angry now because he got out of it. He got away with it.
Yeah, it was too easy for
It
him.
was too easy. And so I was left with all this rage. And then trying to build my life. Yeah, just trying to build my life.
And then you had a friend who believed in God.
Yeah. So the one guy I spent most time with,
Yeah.
growing up as children,
Yeah.
and doing drugs, going clubbing, drinking, all those kind of things.
He did it also.
He also did it. We were the same.
Yeah.
One day, his mum was a Christian, and he became a Christian, and he would not stop talking about God. He would not stop. Anybody else who tried talking to me about God
Yeah.
would just be met with obscene language and shut down very quickly. But he was my friend, and I was with him every day, And so when he would talk about it, I had no choice but to listen and then, give my opposing views and, how ridiculous it was.
But did his life change? Like, did he stop
did.
doing drugs?
Yeah,
and,
he did. Yeah, stopped doing drugs.
But
Stopped
was
the
he still
excessive-
fun to be around?
Yeah. He would still come clubbing with me.
Okay.
Him and this other friend that we had at the time. And they both stopped doing the drugs and things. And so it was just me.
And
I'd be high on drugs and they would be just,
They went to Huddersfield Christian Fellowship, was it?
Yeah, they went to Huddersfield Christian Fellowship.
Oh.
So he would ask me to come, come to the Easter service or come to the Christmas service or I'm getting baptized or something. I can't remember, but little events along the way that he would make excuses. And he believed that no matter how hard I was against God, that all he had to do was get me into the presence of God and that God would do the rest.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to convince me. There's nothing somebody could say or
you
explain.
had your arguments.
I had my
God.
arguments. I could talk for hours, evolution and this and that. I could, there is no God. But I remember him distinctly one day saying to me when I was arguing with him, well, if there is a God, why this? And God did this and God did that. And he said, do you see now, Jim, how you've changed? You've gone from absolutely not accepting any idea or notion of God to now contemplating that if he's there, then why this? And that's a step. I'll take
already
that.
a step, yeah.
I'll take that. And I was like, how ridiculous. I was so against God. I remember grabbing him by the scruff of his neck and slamming him. We went out for some beers, like shut up, basically. In a fair few other words, I told him to shut up, and I don't want to hear about God anymore.
Yeah.
But one day he came round to my house Sunday morning or whatever it was, literally pulled off the duvet and said, "You said you were going to come to church with me, so you have to come." And it was a Christmas service. Yeah,
On Sunday morning.
Sunday morning Christmas service, and it wasn't Christmas Day, but it was the lead up to Christmas, so it was like a festive service. And so he said, "Right, come along," and I got ready and I came, and
then what?
And that day, I'd been to church a few times before, argued with some of the parishioners and the churchgoers there.
Yeah, but there was not Huddersfield Christian Fellowship, but a different church.
No. It was the same church.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the same church. And I'd become familiar with a few people because I'd been there a few times with my friend. But it was all nonsense to me.
Yeah.
All.
And that was in the first building?
Yeah, it was in the old building.
Because now they're in a different building.
Yeah, we're in a different building now. So the church has grown over the years. So it was a church of a few hundred people back then. And I used to think it was crazy, all these people singing songs, clapping.
Yeah.
And, I thought, what a bunch of nutters. And there is no God.
Yeah.
But that particular morning was life-changing because
What happened?
I had a deeply spiritual encounter. There was a guy called John McHale, and he was preaching. He gave the sermon, and he spoke about the simple Christian message. Christmas message, Jesus Christ died for you on the cross to pay for everything you've done wrong and that which separates you from God. Everything you've done wrong. And he will forgive you. All you have to do is ask him to forgive you and receive him and put your faith in Jesus Christ.
Wow.
And in that moment, I felt, if you asked me back then, I wouldn't be able to explain it other than what was that? A deeply moving experience.
So,
as if there was somebody talking to me.
yeah, it caught you by surprise.
Yeah.
And there was no defense.
No, there was no, it was like, it was.
It hit your heart.
Yeah, something deeply impacted me
Yeah.
as if some presence was talking to me.
Yeah.
And obviously, having been on drugs and things like that in my past,
Yeah.
I thought, this is, whoa, this is crazy. But what he was saying was making sense.
You haven't been using drugs.
No,
particular
no,
moment.
absolutely not. So in that moment, I tried to make sense of it as a scientific, logical thinking person.
Yeah.
Maybe it was because of this. Maybe because you're feeling emotional. Maybe, but nothing could really get me away from, you heard that. You heard that tugging of that voice saying, this is your time now, Jim. You know, make a decision. And I get emotional because the encounter with God started, which has resulted in the life that I have now.
Yes.
And I know the difference that the life that decision that I made that day has affected my life now after all these years. If you'd asked me back then, I'd have just said, God, I felt that God spoke to me.
That was the turning point.
It was
in your life.
It was an absolute encounter, and I now view it after years of walking with God in my life and seeing everything that he's done since that decision. So I get emotional. Whereas maybe back then it would have been more painful. I don't know, maybe the pain of all the suffering was really fresh. Whereas now it's done through the lens of amazing transformation and victory in my life. And it started there at that decision point.
So could you say then you became a Christian?
No, I fought it.
You fought it?
I fought it. I went away that morning because he said, is there anybody here that wants to become a Christian this morning, that wants to receive Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior? Put up your hand and I'll pray for you.
And you didn't.
And I didn't. I didn't put my hand up. And in this church, I was this tough, hard guy. So I went away on my own to contemplate and understand. Now, being logical. When I say I was logical, I mean I was logical. So I had to have an answer for what I experienced. To explain it.
Yeah.
So everywhere where I went, I even went home and I remember switching on the TV, something about Jesus. Because it was Christmas time, so there's Christmas programs on. Then there was another thing about a youth service on TV, and they were putting all their past pains and hurts in the bin and letting God take over. I was like, next channel, I was and I was like, then I left. I went out of the house and I went for a walk, right? And then I began to say things like, well, God, if that was you,
Amen.
Where were you? What about this and what about that? And
that moment at the door, where you were holding the door to protect you from your father.
Yeah. And
what happened?
Well, I remember sitting in a graveyard, looking at all the dead, gravestones, should I say, and thinking, well, no. I was trying to tell myself
when we sitting there for hours.
Hours. I remember getting cold because I was just sat there on a bench in this graveyard near my house, and I tried to convince myself that life was simply, once you die, it's like a light switch going off.
Yes.
Click, gone, ether, nothing exists.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the moment of your life gone. Mm-hmm. Nothing beyond that. And I was trying to convince myself this, but I couldn't get away from the fact that I had a supernatural experience. Yeah. So what if that supernatural experience was real? And so as my logic tried to unwind this, I could come to no other conclusion than, what if this is God's way of getting your attention? And why now? Your friend has had an encounter, and now you are having an encounter.
Yeah.
You have to make a choice. And I thought, well, logically, if there is no God, when I make this choice, it's going to make no difference. But if there is a God, it's going to make every difference.
Yes.
So that was the logical conclusion. And I went back to church on my own for the evening service. This is now 6:30 in the evening.
The same Sunday.
Same day, same Sunday.
So in the
So we
morning
had the
you
morning
had an encounter.
Yeah, morning I had the encounter.
And you went-
Afternoon, I
Yeah.
was contemplating life.
Yeah.
And I went back for the evening service.
Yes.
I went back for the evening service. The same guy was preaching, and a young girl was sat next on this chair. And I said, "Will this guy give me another chance to become a Christian today?"
Wow.
And she said, "Of course he will."
Yes.
And I thought, "Oh, great! I haven't missed it."
You
So
were ready. You were ready, man.
I sat there, and I can't even remember what he was talking about. But at the end, when I could see he was wrapping up, and he was saying, "So, is there anybody here
Yes.
that would like to give their life?" And I put my hands went straight up like this.
Wow.
And in that moment, when I said that prayer, I just began weeping. And when I say crying,
Yes.
uncontrollable weeping. And
You felt the love of God.
the presence and the looking back, if I couldn't describe it back then, but I know now it was God coming in.
Yes. Was liquid? Was it like liquid love?
Just
or was
like a warm sense of a big hug from
Yes.
God. You know, that's the only way I can describe it. Like as if there was something like a jigsaw piece that isn't fitting in the hole, and then as you twist it, it just goes in.
Yes.
It just goes in.
Yes.
It was that sense of something just went in
Wow.
and filled
And
something.
that's when you became born again. A new creation.
It was an incredible experience, and it was so real, and I'm so grateful for that because it had to be real. It couldn't be anything less than real. I just wouldn't have accepted it, and that moment I wept and I wept and I wept. But it was in that moment that I asked the Lord. Then my first question, I said, "God, but if you're here, where were you that day?"
That day at the door.
The day at the door, when I was holding that door closed, I was literally, it was like a flash being, transported back into that moment, which, remember, was only 4 or 5 years prior to that moment, so it was fresh. And I remember the terror of that moment and remembering that I would never accept or receive God or speak about him and all this kind of stuff. And I just, this still small voice said, "Jim, do you really think it was you that held the door closed?"
Wow. Incredible.
And just with those simple words, God showed me that he was there every step of the way. He never left. He was never gone. He was ever present in all those circumstances.
So
And despite how horrible they were, he led me out.
and
brought me
when
to
your
this place.
father stopped hitting with the axe the door and just stopped out of nothing,
Yeah,
do you think it was an intervention of God?
I believe so.
So looking back now,
Looking back, because why would he stop?
Yes.
I
He
mean,
didn't achieve his goal.
no, and he was close to achieving his goal. I mean,
Yeah.
the blade was through the door. The door was bent. One kick and it would have gone, and that would have been the end of it. It was like God was almost saying, "This far you can go, and no further."
So something supernatural changed in your life.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you had built walls around your heart, not to be hurt anymore, but God just came through those walls. You couldn't protect yourself from that love.
That's the wonderful nature of God.
Yes.
God doesn't, evil can only try and change the circumstances outside your life to try and get to your heart, to try and hurt you. God goes straight to the heart, changes the heart, and that begins to go from the inside out. And that's what it was like. It was like, it doesn't matter what defenses you've got, because only God can go straight to the heart, because he's the master, he's the creator.
Beautiful. Yes.
And he went straight to my heart and changed it from within.
So something really changed, but at the same time, what about the anger? Because you said I developed
So when you come to the Lord, when you have an encounter with God, the transformation starts. But perfection doesn't come overnight.
No.
So immediately things like drugs, excessive drinking, I immediately knew they were not right. So they just stopped. I'm not taking drugs anymore.
From one moment to
I just
the
made
other.
a choice. I'm not taking drugs. Gone. Stealing. Gone. Stealing money.
Yeah,
and
because
things
you stole even from banks and from...
Yeah, I did a lot of stupid things because
Yeah.
I was
But you
in
never got caught?
I did get caught once.
Oh.
Yeah, I got caught. I got locked in a bank once. They locked. I was a young kid. I was trying to do some fraud, and I laugh now, but it was highly stupid. And I remember the manager of the bank locked the door and waited until and they all disappeared and waited until the police arrived. So that was, there's things like that happened. So
that stopped. The stealing stopped.
The stealing and all, and even the anger subdued, because as time went on and you read the Bible and you've got God's presence in your life, the joy begins to overtake, and joy overtook the anger, but the explosive anger was still there.
Yeah.
And that took time. That took a season of being and walking hand in hand with God for it to go. Think of it as people. I was so transformed. I remember a person walking up to me on the street, chatting. We were chatting, and we were talking, and he just grabbed me by my shoulders and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "What?" And he goes, Are you on something now? And I was like, no, it's the middle of the week.
Yeah.
I don't do this anymore.
No.
Because I've got Jesus Christ in my life.
Yeah.
Because he could see on my face
And what did your...
something had changed.
Yeah. And how did your family respond? Your mother and your sisters and...
I was so far off the rails, as we say, that my mum, being a Sikh,
Yeah.
and I'd become a Christian, my mum was just grateful that I started believing in God.
Yeah, it didn't matter to her. It was a Christian.
At the time, now a few years later, it was different. But at the time, she was just grateful.
Happy that you came on the right track.
Yeah, I started talking to her about God. I said,
Yeah.
Mom, God came and he's done this and he's in my life now. And, I worship him and I want to go and sing songs. And I've got my Bible. I'm reading about God. And she was just happy that her son, had...
Because if God would not have intervened, what would have become of you? What would you think? Would you still be alive today, or would you...
I think with my highly calculating brain that I was in, and that I was getting into progressively worse and worse crime, I think it was inevitable that I would have at the very least ended up in prison. At the very least. And I think if the anger was left unchecked, it's highly likely I would have done something violent that could have resulted in me experiencing violence, which could have resulted in me dying.
Could you have become like your father?
Very much so, yes. Because I was already drinking excessively, and you never think you're going to become an alcoholic.
Strange, is it? That
but you could have become an alcoholic. Maybe that would have been a coping mechanism later in life. I don't know.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I didn't get... I was already on the downhill slope.
Yeah.
But God got me at the age of 19.
Yes.
Had he have waited till I was 25 or 30, what depravity would I have ended up in?
Yes.
Because it was just a downhill slope.
And can you understand your father a little bit better now? Because
very much so, yeah.
Because you could have turned into a similar person as him.
Yeah, well...
because of what you went through. What did he went through? And that's not to excuse him.
No. I mean, the Christian relationship with God is, he transforms you and he changes you. And you've got to let him. But if you harbor things like unforgiveness...
Yeah.
Eventually he comes to you and God comes to you and says, okay, it's time to deal with this now.
Yeah.
And in amongst everything that he was doing, there came a point where it was like, it's time to forgive.
Forgive. Yeah. How was that for you?
It was something that I thought I could never do. But with God, all things are possible. And there was a moment where I forgave my dad. much later in my walk with God. It wasn't like the first week or month or even year. There was a moment where I felt that I was able to forgive my dad, but it came out of a choice and God's help.
Yes.
What came later was understanding, which solidified the forgiveness.
Yes.
So first it was obedience to God's word. You must forgive.
Yes.
I've forgiven you.
Yeah.
How can you not forgive somebody else? So I had to wrestle with that and seek God's help.
Yeah.
Now imagine without God, I don't think these things are possible. I genuinely don't believe it. I think you can deal with things without God, but you can't truly forgive that kind of level of abuse without God. And for me, it was the case. So God really helped me to forgive my dad. But it came out of a choice of wanting to, because I wanted to be obedient to God.
It's not cheap, Sorry.
No. But then later, now that I'm also a father myself, there's been steps before I was a father, but there's been steps along the way where understanding came. For example, understanding about alcoholism. There was a man in our church who used to be an alcoholic, and Jesus had set him free. And we spoke about what it was like being an alcoholic. And actually, you don't have control when it takes hold of you. It's an addiction. I didn't understand addiction. I just thought my dad was spending all our money on alcohol, so I hated him for it. Then there was times when I hated my dad, where I thought he was being mean and horrible. He beat my grandfather up once. I mean, he beat my grandfather up. But it was only later when God revealed to me, you know why that was? It's because your grandfather was abusing your little sisters. So he was inappropriately touching my sisters. I didn't know, but my dad understood where his dad was. Yeah. And so this fight that they had, and where he was banished from our house and never allowed to come to our house again, I thought, what a horrible dad, beating my grandfather.
You can see through the generations how suffering just repeats itself.
Yeah, so then it began made me think, well, what did my dad go through to make him an alcoholic? Yeah. And then later in life, I found out that his brother, who died when I was in junior school age, maybe 10, 11, 12, I was told that he died with a car accident in India. But actually in my late 20s, 30s maybe even, I found out, no, he didn't. He laid himself across a train track and committed suicide. And let a train run over him. So that was only made clear, the truth of that only came out many years later. Yeah. But my mum protected me from that information when I was young. So then I think, well, what was he suffering that his brother was suffering that he wanted to commit suicide? Yeah. So then I found out that my grandfather had also done time in prison, from what I understand, for murder over an issue over land.
Can you see the violence through the generations?
Exactly.
And it could repeat it in you.
Exactly.
But through God's intervenence, it stopped.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have this family tree of just horror after horror after horror. And then there's me, the next son in line. But God just took me out, gave me a new family tree and said, God is the head.
Yes.
I'm his son.
That's amazing. Huh?
And this is your
new lineage. Hallelujah. Yeah, it touches you, and it shows how deep the work of God has been.
He doesn't just do a patchwork. No. He doesn't just patch things up and get you on. He totally transforms you. Yeah. He changes it. He takes gospel, it. It's the gospel. And there is the power of God in your life. It's not just religion. Yeah. Religion would never have satisfied me. I had enough religion growing up. Yes. Going to church, to me, isn't about just going to church and singing some songs. It's about meeting with God himself.
Yeah, I can see for you, worship is very important. That's
it is. It is.
I mean,
it is.
Yeah.
Worship was very difficult for me.
And that's, the Bible says, when you're forgiven much, you love much.
Yeah. Well, when you
can see the love of God in worship.
When you realize what you're forgiven from. Now, here's the thing. I could have had a victim mentality, which I did have, look at all the things that have happened to me. Where were you, God? I've suffered and all this kind of thing. But actually, God revealed to me, he said, just for a moment, put that to one side. What about the things you've done wrong to me?
Yeah.
What about the sin in your life, Jim, that separates you and me? We'll deal with this in a moment. I know the suffering. I've been there.
You've been. Yeah.
But let's deal with you and me first.
Yes.
And that's where I had to find. I had to ask for forgiveness for the things that I.
You were a victim of what happened to you.
Yeah.
But you were also, how would you call it in English? A perpetrator or a.
A sinner myself.
Yes.
I was a sinner myself, wasn't
Yeah.
I stole, I swore, I told lies. All the things that we do that separate us from God. That's the first step.
Yes. And when God says, in the Lord's Prayer, it says, Father, forgive me as I forgive my trespassers.
Yeah.
It's almost like God says, hey, yes, I have forgiven you. So you're not better than the ones who trespassed. How would you call it?
The debtors.
The debtors, yeah.
So just as you have been forgiven, you've got to forgive others as well.
Towards God, you're not better than your Father.
No, I'm not better. We
Now
like
looking
to
back.
we like to think that truth is relative. I'm not as bad as he is.
Yeah.
But anybody could do that. The guy who murdered someone will say, "Look at that guy. He murdered 10 people. He blew them up with a bomb. That's terrible." Does that make him better? No, it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. So we're all equal in the eyes of God when it comes to sin.
Come on.
And if we're all equal, then we're all equal in need of transformation and forgiveness.
Just to put it in perspective, you were 19 when you got saved.
Yeah.
Then it changed. And then there is a development, growing in the Lord, forgiving, dealing with things in your own life, the pain that had to deal with.
Yeah.
But I remember you did a testimony once in our church where that anger, you could not control it. You prayed and you prayed and you prayed. And although it was gone for a while, all of a sudden, it came, and you were a Christian now.
Yeah.
But the anger just still popped up.
Yeah, so I was probably around 2 years at least of being a Christian now. So going to church every week, never missing a service, loving God, loving my new life, and everything that goes with it. And of course, trying to live an obedient life to Christ. And one of them, of course, is you can't be angry, in that way and violent. So I controlled it because I thought that's what I need to do. I need to not be angry. But it's like trying to keep a lid on a pressure cooker. And there'll be some people, especially your family, who can press all the right buttons to make you get really angry. And I was like so disappointed in myself because I kept getting angry. So I'm a Christian now. I'm getting angry with my sisters or getting angry with my mum. My mum was being difficult with me one day, and I just launched at her, grabbed her by her throat and pushed her against the wall. My little mum, she's only about this big. And I remember saying something to her, like, I hate you or something, I don't know. I was angry. And she just looked at me and said, are you just being like your dad?
Wow.
And I let go.
Punched you in the face, huh?
I just let go, and I went upstairs to my bedroom and I wept. And I was deeply sorry and ashamed for what I'd done. But that was a breaking point for me because as much as I had tried to not be angry, that moment I said to God, God, you're asking me not to be angry, but I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm at my end. I've tried everything. I've tried all kinds of strategies to not be angry. So I need your help. And if you don't help me, this is never going to leave me. So I hand this to you now. You either change me and transform me so this anger is gone, because from this day on, I'm too tired. I can't hold it any longer. So I will just do what comes naturally to me from this day on. I was at the end of myself, pouring myself out on my knees to God, and crying before Him. And again, I felt God spoke to me through the scripture, and it said, "In your weakness, my power is made perfect." Wow. I didn't understand scripture as well back then. Yeah. And I thought, in your weakness, my power is made perfect. In other words, now I can do something with you. Now, have you finished trying? Now. And I kid you not, from that day on, that explosive, in an instant, total loss of control was gone.
But there's a deep lesson there, right? So
Incredible.
if you leave it up to God, because we try to fix ourselves a lot of times.
We do.
And we can't. I mean, we have a responsibility, of course,
Of course.
but there are things that we have to allow God to be God.
Yeah.
And be weak at the moment. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Admit it.
Yeah.
And let God change you.
Yeah. And I think coming to God in that way, because I'm coming to him with sin, I'm coming to him with a problem, a difficulty. Is God angry with me for the way I'm behaving?
Yeah.
But you have to have that courage to go to your Father and say, I've done something wrong here.
Yeah.
I know you want to probably discipline me, but I need some help,
Yeah.
And supernaturally, I can honestly say supernaturally, because I did nothing else. There was no constant prayer every day, take away the anger. There was no fighting and fasting for it, or I don't know, whatever religious things people might want to do. It was gone. From that moment, the presence of God came.
So beautiful.
I found a ways out. So the outworking of that would be, if my mum was being horrible to me or whatever, like mums and as boys and mums can be, I would just go, well, forget it, and I would just walk and I would move. I would go to another room, or I would just go for a walk and walk it off. But I found the door. And so even if I was tempted to become angry, I would see the door and see the way out. Wow. And that's what God did.
Now, many years later, because we're talking when you were 19, many years later
19
now.
in early 20s, yeah.
Yeah. Looking back now, because it still touches you, but you already said in the beginning, I can look at it now differently than it was when it was just fresh and raw.
Yeah.
It's almost like, hey, have I experienced this?
Yeah, God is.
And I'm grateful now, even for the hard moments, because God showed Himself in those moments. Looking back,
He did, and the Bible says in Genesis 50, that which was meant to harm you, God turned it for the good.
Yes,
so that many might be saved, and I saw purpose. So even out of the grotesque issues and darkness, God can bring out something wonderful.
Yeah.
And almost as a testimony to the universe that you can't outwit God. God knows, and if Satan or the enemy or life wants to try and turn you into a horrible person or, subject you to horrible things, God can unwind that and make it into something beautiful. Yeah. And so there's no escaping God, and there's no reason not to be walking with Him. And looking back now, I get emotional because I've seen the transforming power of God and the wonderful life He's given me since that decision. Yeah. Whereas at the time I would have talked about my suffering and grateful that He's come into my life.
Yes, and that's understandable for that season you're in.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to go through the things that you have to go through when you have experienced those things.
Yeah.
And now looking back, you have more, healed, repaired, and matured.
Yeah, and matured as well.
And then the way I know you got a hold of something of, I'm a child of God now. I mean, I can see that in your life. You have a revelation on being a child of the Most High King, and you approach life from that perspective.
My friend said to me, he says, something, Jim? He said, you. One thing I've noticed about you, all the days of our lives that we've been walking together, is that you genuinely see yourself as the son of the King.
Yes.
You approach every problem that you face in life, not from any position of defeat, but from position of, well, what is my God, my King, going to do? He's going to do something to resolve this. Yeah. My position is already safe, secure, solid, because I am a son of the King. So I'm waiting for the resolve to this situation. And there has been difficulties in life.
Yes.
But I've walked with God, and I would rather walk with God through the good and the bad rather than not have him. And I don't know how people do it, you know. I think about Rachel when she was in the womb, a hole in the heart, the doctor said.
Yeah.
You know,
I
how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
You know? But I saw a miracle. I saw a real life miracle. And she's obviously a healthy, wonderful girl now.
Yes,
There's nothing wrong with
absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
That was a whole testimony in itself. So I am a son of the King. And I've told you the story before, but the provision is already there.
Yeah.
As my grandfather taught me when I was trying to get
you tell that story. Yeah.
My grandfather said to me, I was at my grandfather's house and I said, Granddad, can I have one of these bottles of orange juice?
Yeah.
And he said, no, ask me again. Don't ask me like that. And I thought, I've been rude. Please, grandfather, may I have one? No. Again. Now I'm like, grandfather, please, can I have one of these bottles? Thank you. No.
You want to be polite.
And he's like, I'm not asking you to be polite.
No.
I'm asking you to know who you are in my house.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I was like, grandfather, I'm going to have one of these bottles of orange juice. Yes.
That's it.
But before he got really frustrated. He's like, whose bottles of orange juice are those? Think about it. Are they mine? No, they're children's juice bottles. Yeah. I got them for you. They're in this house. So who are you? You are the son of my son. And you're the only son in that house.
Yes.
You're the master of the house. So tell me, ask me again. And I said, grandfather, I'm going to have one of these bottles of orange. He wasn't teaching me to be rude.
No rude, but
he was trying to
know who you are.
Know who I am.
Yes.
And I'm not a beggar.
No.
I'm not a beggar.
No.
In my grandfather's house. You know, the provision is there. So with that understanding, when I came to Christ in my life, the provision is already there.
Yeah.
So I boldly ask for God things, you know, take away. I boldly ask him, God, you take this away. You change this about me in my life.
Wow.
And when it came to Rachel, you know, God, you're going to intervene here because you are God the healer. And you died on the cross, not only for my sin, but for sickness as well.
Wow.
Healing.
Well, this is a great story. Maybe the close of this conversation. It's been a great story you've told, and thank you for sharing that, Jim. I'm proud that you are my son-in-law.
I am equally, if not more, proud to have you as my father. Dad. It's an absolute joy. It is.
So, and I could, understand that if you listen to this story, and you're at home, and maybe not I will go a bit in Dutch now. If je bent thuis misschien en je hebt dit verhaal gehoord. En misschien heeft het raakvlakken met jouw leven, misschien ook niet. Maar je hebt iets gehoord van de kracht van het evangelie, van Jezus. Dat hij levens verandert. Let me also do it in English and say, hey, maybe, like I said, you heard the story and maybe you can recognize yourself into the story, maybe not, but you heard something about the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ, how he can change lives. And if it's you sitting at home and you said, hey, can God do this for me? Kan God dit voor mij doen? I want to say yes. He's still the same God. And he looks at you. He loves you. And maybe you feel abandoned. Maybe misschien voel je verlaten. But allow God to be God in your life and open up your heart. And we want to welcome you. We willen je welkom heten in een van die diensten. Hè? Zoals in het leven van Jim. Hij kwam in die dienst. Hij ervoerde de tegenwoordigheid van God. Jim came into the service and he felt the presence of God. And all things changed. Van alles veranderde in zijn leven. Van harte welkom en wie weet zien we elkaar binnenkort. Dan wens ik je God zegen. Thank you, Jim. En u ook tot ziens en tot de volgende keer.
Bedankt voor het luisteren naar onze podcast. Deel het met anderen, zodat ook zij gezegend zullen worden. Als het je heeft geraakt, kan je ook ons kanaal volgen door het volgknopje aan te klikken. Je bent welkom in een van onze diensten elke zondag om 10 uur. Anders kan je ook kijken op delevensbron.net voor meer informatie. Nogmaals bedankt en God zegen.